Welcome, everybody, to UFO Man Live. My name is Tim, or UFO Man. My co host is Tom Reed. Tonight, we have a guest, a very special guest. His name is John Yost. He is a writer director of a very influential film that has come out in May of 2022. It is now streaming live, and it is called Alien Abduction Answers. Welcome, John.
Thanks a lot, Tim. Thanks a lot, Tom, for being here. And I thank your listeners, too. Thank you.
Yeah, we have a good channel. There'll be a lot of questions in chat, I'm sure, too.
Perfect.
Yeah. Welcome to everybody in the chat room. I want to put up something here from my sponsor. UFO Expo is my sponsor. So here we go. Wrong one, sorry.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty good, especially with that added still shot at the end, so it shows the full information.
And for those people in chat, John is going to be, I guess, showing your film there this March as well. So we're honored to have the opportunity to do that. And yeah, if you don't mind, can we just jump in and start talking about this film of his, or do you have something?
Well, hold on. I'm going to play his trailer so everybody gets an idea of what the film's about.
Okay.
And here we go.
This is not communication. It's communion. Hundreds of thousands of people have claimed contact. That will change you. It changed me.
Lost in between two worlds and two dreams.
This was something that I kept buried for years. Strange things would happen. I didn't want anything to do with it anymore.
He came at me, and I fought for my life.
Ships started to pop up in the sky.
And there's this bizarre disk of light. It is moving across the sky very fast.
The experience is often very terrifying.
If I felt fear, I would crawl under my covers, hoping that it would go away, whatever it was.
I know that we were put in that craft. I knew I was going to go to another planet.
And the being was right next to my face.
He saw two shadow beings. That's when I felt like I was going to die.
I had a real encounter with something. Even if I had to live with the fear, is to know the truth, is to know.
Yeah, it looks very well done.
Yeah, I do have a question for you. That mark that's on your shoulder.
Yes.
Was that directly related to one of your abductions?
That was related to the main abduction that is explored in the film.
Okay.
I'd be happy to tell that story, but yes, that yeah, and it's with me today. I know we were talking about marks off line. It is a large mark. It's probably as big as my thumb, and it changes color and temperature.
Does it ever itch?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I have a mark that itches all the time. Well, not all the time, off and on.
Yes.
So that's why I was wondering. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about that because marks are evidence of interaction that most people don't realize happens to them. I mean, when you wake up in the morning and you have an odd mark on your body, it may not be that you scratched yourself. It may be that something else scratched you
Yes.
or left a mark.
Yes. Yes.
So can
I
you
have, I have
tell us?
2 marks, actually, one on my right wrist right here and one on the other that are almost identical, and they look like a cigarette burn.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've had those ever since I was a kid, and neither one of my parents really smoked or anything. It wasn't like and to have it in the same spot, I don't know if you can even see it, but yeah, one of them's right here. This is probably the one that's, let me see.
Wow.
Yeah, you can see that one.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
I have the same thing on this hand. So
It's almost as though something had held you there or held you down there.
well, they're almost that typical scoop mark that most people reference or talk about. And my brother, by the way, while we're on the subject, he had 2, almost like a snake bite. They were 1 centimeter bites, if you will. Look like a snake bite, like side by side with teeth.
Yeah.
And he had 2 in his chest. And the doctor that we spoke to was pretty open about. He had an interest in this topic, I guess, so he was easy to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And he went on record to say that they were basically over the thymus gland. And as children, the thymus gland produces your T cells to build up your body's immune system.
Yeah.
And my brother was 7 at the time. And so that would have been a direct line of sight, if you will, for needles if you wanted to extract something from the thymus gland, get those T cells. But what's really interesting is that where those marks were behind his ear is where the signal would come from the brain for your body to produce those T cells. So if you were to stimulate that particular area, your body would produce more T cells for your body's immune system. And if you were going to spend much time here, just like if we were to travel somewhere foreign, we'd want to build up our body's immune system. So that was I guess the gist of the conversation that we had with regard to why this might be. So, and that's in his medical records, believe it or not. Yes.
Actually, I have to add to that. The marks behind my ear were 2 marks, but they were the doctor. When I saw the doctor about it, he said they looked like suture marks. They were side by side, just like Tom's saying, which I've never heard before. But yeah, I have once. But anyways, it was behind my left ear, itched all the time, and I went to see the doctor, and he said there's something underneath there, right on top of the cartilage behind the ear, and it was there till about 9 months ago, when I woke up with some blood on my mattress, and there was nothing there anymore. I couldn't feel it, so it must have been removed or something. But
sounds like, yeah.
I do have a mark in the middle of my chest, though, John, that is round, 5 to 6 puncture marks in a circle. I've had it since January 1st, 2000. I can't remember the year exactly, but I've had it from, it occurred overnight, and I woke up in the morning with it.
Outrageous.
And I had the doctor look at it, and they said it was not just a regular puncture or anything. It was a vaccination mark. And I've never been vaccinated in my chest.
That's incredible.
So I keep wondering if that isn't something to do with military interaction with alien abductions, because people claim that people are being seen on board ships in military garb.
Yeah.
So perhaps there is an interaction there. I don't know. So, John, can you talk about how you got your mark?
Thanks. Hey, John. So I've got a question for you, John.
Yes.
And it is interesting because if memory serves, you're more of a professional, astute. You're not into the topic so much. You're a film producer and a director and that kind of thing. So you're removed from the field a little bit. Yet, do you find that what you connect with, or what has happened to you in the past, or other things particular, like Whitney or someone else, that resonate with you? Are you finding a connection? Have you found something linear that might help answer questions? Because your film is about abductions and the answers to abductions. I guess what I'm saying is, did you kind of insert yourself into where you were trying to find answers for yourself as well?
Well, that's a complicated answer. It shouldn't be, but it is. I Prior to my film, I had lied about my abduction my entire life for 45 plus years. So nobody, not even my family, my adult family, my sons and my wife, whatever, knew about what had happened to me. So when the film came out, I had to have, quote unquote, the talk, to let them know that what was going to happen. And I'll tell you a tragic story, and I'll tell you maybe a revealing story. The first story is this: I returned back from a wedding just prior to the holiday, and there were family and people I've known for 30 years who literally would not recognize my presence because of the film. They wouldn't talk to me. They just ignored me like a pariah. So I've had that kind of reaction from a lot of people. And yet there have been people in the business and in my life who have reached out to me very, very quietly and verbally, never in writing, to say, listen, I think maybe I've had a situation happen. Can you help me? And, either point them in the right direction or answer any kind of questions they have. And, to what Tim had said off air, he said, disclosure is really going to come from people who have had these encounters, this interaction, abductees or contactees. It's not going to come from the government. I can't agree more with what he said. So I know that's kind of a roundabout answer to your question, but I hope that it did. There are a lot of people in show business who are now feeling more comfortable with discussing it. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to find ourselves with a preponderance of evidence and Art Bell used to say the quickening. And I think what's going to happen is more and more people are going to come out and speak about it.
Would you say that the experience that you had was maybe more spiritual? Was it more nuts and bolts? Was it horrific? Was it painful? Or for us, just to kind of touch on what you experienced, which is very hard to accept sometimes and painful, is when your family and loved ones kind of turned their back on you, and that happened to us too, especially my mother when she had the diner and had the incident, and she would confide in people and who those she thought were friends, just so that they would mock her and joke and point their finger and laugh at her later on when I saw her at the supermarket. So
yeah.
I'm sorry that happened, because that to me that is one of the most painful things to endure. I've always said that the off-world experience wasn't as painful as the on-world afterwards.
So that's a really, really good and poignant point. One of the things that I discovered through my regression is that the trauma that I suffered was less about the interaction and more about the human component. So to kind of circle back and answer your question, the the experience itself was very, very traumatic because I was 7 years old boy, and I was scared to death, petrified, and be happy to tell you the story if you guys want to, but
yes.
But today it has kind of morphed into something. I start the film off being petrified, and at the very end of my film, I say something like this, to this effect. I said, what is it about these shiny lights in the sky that makes me want to be a better person? I don't understand this. And what I think it really is it's about perspective. It's about realizing that we are not the top of the food chain, that there is something much, much bigger. And I find that the ego is our biggest challenge and our biggest enemy.
Right.
When
I agree.
when I was a kid, maybe this will help, Tom. When I was a kid, 7 years old, it's August. It's a very humid. I lived in Pennsylvania, and in my parents' home, and we weren't wealthy, so we didn't have air conditioning or anything like that. My bedroom was on the second floor, and the windows were open. And I woke up in the middle of the night, really late, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that, to this undulating hum, kind of like this, almost like a drone. And it ticked me off. I couldn't go back to sleep. So what happened was I get up and I go to the bathroom, and I'm getting a glass of water, and the water poured for a really long time. I don't know why. But then I opened the door to the bathroom to leave. And when I did, standing in the doorway to my eyes, remember, I'm a 7-year-old kid, was this character I'd seen 100 times, 1,000 times on television. And it was a character from Japanese television called Ultraman. I don't know if you remember him.
Yes.
But he was this giant guy, silver, had big almond eyes, pointy head, and he fought the bad guys. So I loved Ultraman, right? And I'm looking at this guy, and there was only one thing that was strange about him. He was my size. And I was the smallest kid in my class until puberty. So he was a pretty small guy. And but I experienced, at this point, I experienced no fear at all. And we got nose to nose, very, very close. And then something happened. I've used this analogy before in my conversations. If you've ever been on a beach and you're standing and the water comes up over your ankles, and as it goes back out, it starts to pull the sand out from underneath your feet, and you feel like you're falling back. That's the way it felt. And I was immediately terrified. And I started to flail like a drowning man. And I literally lay hands on this character, this entity, this guy, this whatever. And what I do, there's this flash of light, and I feel like I'm moving, but I can't tell. And all of this light's passing me by, blue, green, yellow, red. And it feels almost like I'm on a carousel that's got out of control, or maybe like a speeding bullet train that you can't figure out what's the landscape. And I'm in the middle of this fight. And as I kind of come to my senses, I'm still in the middle of this fight, but something really strange has happened. This character who was in the doorway, his back now is in the bathroom, and my back is in the hallway. And I realize this, but I'm in the middle of this thing, and I go to swing at this thing, and I say he, I don't know it was a him. He raises his hand, and he touches me on my left shoulder. When he does, there is this blow up of light. It's crazy. And then I feel this force in my chest, almost like getting hit in the chest by a wave. And you know how it knocks you down? Well, it pushed me back really, really hard. And I fell down. There was a set of stairs behind me. They were hardwood stairs. And I fall, and I'm banging off walls and flipping over. And I'm screaming like a banshee. I am screaming. I'm hurt. I'm scared to death. And I land in a big heap at the bottom of the stairs. Well, my parents, who have a first floor bedroom, they hear all this commotion. They run out. My father's screaming, what the hell's going on? And I'm saying, Ultraman's upstairs. I'm sure he hears, intruder. So he runs upstairs, and he's banging around up there. And my mom is holding me. She sees I got cuts. I'm crying, and she's trying to calm me down. After some time, my dad comes to the top of the stairs, and he looks down, and he's pissed, because there's nothing there. Well, after some time, my parents take me back upstairs, and they do what parents do. They show you inside the closet. See, there's nothing there. They show you under the bed. See, there's nothing there. Well, I'm calming down. My mom's talking to me, whatever, and she finally lays me on the bed, and I think it was because all of the adrenaline was pumping through my body, but I just passed out like a coma. And I didn't wake up until the next day. Now, remember, this is August, so no school. And it's, summertime. And back in the 70s, today kids, you can't get them off the damn couch because they have their screens, right? But you guys know, when we were kids, you grabbed a waffle and you ran outside. You were outside all day, right? Yeah. Your mom would call you in for dinner. That's the way it was. And I remember my mom called me in, and she said, "Okay, it's time for dinner." And as I said, it was very humid that summer, And she said, "You are really disgusting. You're not having dinner until you get a bath." And I'm 7 years old and I'm a boy. I don't want to take a bath. And she's struggling with me to get my t-shirt off. And she gets it off and she's looking at the bruises and the cuts. And she gets to my left shoulder. And she says, "Honey, what happened here?" And I start to say, "Mom, I told you it was, Ultraman." And she looked really, really sad. She gave me a little kiss on the forehead and said, "It'll be okay, honey. It'll be okay." And, got a bath and had dinner that night, whatever. A couple of days later, my dad is taking me to the doctor. And as we pull into the parking lot, he looks back at me. And my dad was a gruff guy. I mean, he was a big guy, strong guy. He worked in the mills. And he said, "Now listen, when we get in there, I don't want to hear anything about this Ultraman thing. I want you to keep your damn mouth shut." And, I love my dad. I wasn't afraid of him. I would, respect him. And, and of course, I'm 7 years old. I have no idea the import of what's going on here. So I go in and doctor's checking me out. And remember, this is a couple days later. So my bruises are starting to yellow and purple and, the cuts are healing up and get to my shoulder. And he says, "Whoa, sport, what the heck is here?" And I start to say, well, there was this, and I could see my dad in a corner. And once again, this is the 70s, Today, kids mouth off to their parents all the time. But, back then, your dad gave you the look, you knew what that meant. And I said, I was playing, I fell, I guess. I don't know. So the doctor manipulates it a little bit, and he looks at it, and he's puzzled and asks me if it hurts. Tried to see if some liquid came out of it or whatever. And after a while, gave me a lollipop and sent me on my way. And I didn't think anything about it, because once again, I'm 7. And my dad, as he's driving me home, he pulls into my parents' parking in the driveway. And he stops the car and he says, "Now listen, son, I'm going to tell you something. I'm only going to say this once. I never, ever want to hear about this Ultraman thing again. I want you to shut your mouth about it. I don't want you to talk about this. I don't want you scaring your mother. I don't want you scaring your sister. You shut up." And I didn't understand, but I said, "Okay, Dad," And I lived like that my entire life, just shutting up or whatever. And it almost became like muscle memory. I would make jokes about it. I did a lot of sports in high school and university, and you'd be in the locker room and somebody say, "Yost, what the hell is that?" And I would say things, just out of my mouth, smart ass. I'd say, I got hit by lightning. Oh, somebody shot me. I got harpooned. Whatever. And they would say, "You're an ass," or whatever. But what it did was this. Number one, it diffused the matter in seconds, right? And they left me alone. And anything would have been better than to, say, "Hey, listen, I was abducted." Didn't want to do that. And so that's what happened. And I lived with that my entire life. Now, fast forward, I go on and I have a career, and I'm a U.S. Customs broker, and I'm working with Treasury, and I live around the world and whatever. And I decide to follow a childhood dream. I get involved in show business and do some TV stuff and film stuff and whatever, and get involved in producing. And fast forward to about, I want to say 4 years ago, I'm on a shoot in the middle of California, in a place called Borrego Springs. And you got to understand what I do. I mean, the kind of work that I would do is you would see it on History Channel, you'd see it on, Food Network, that sort of thing. You'd see it on commercials. I've worked for all the major cable companies in the country, and that sort of thing. So everything was normal, regular, run-of-the-mill commercial work that you'd see on normal television. It had nothing to do with paranormal. And so I'm on this shoot. And And Borrego Springs is very flat and it's very arid. And we're doing a night shoot. And it's at the end of the shoot, and we come back. We rented this huge ranch house, so everybody could be together, and we could control the crowd. We had like 15 people with us, and so my crew and I were inside, and we were making sure we have copies of all the footage and stuff. We don't want to lose anything, and we come out, and everybody is having a nightcap. Well, I walk out, and somebody hands me a glass, and I'm going to raise a toast. You know, people are going to raise a toast, and I raise my hand. And as I do, I see a glint in the glass. And your mind, when things like this happen, your mind tries to categorize it. You want to put a label on it, right? So I say to myself, oh, well, that's the moon. I went, wait a second. There's no moon. This is the new moon. We shot tonight so we could control the light. And as I pull down my glass, I see right above the house. Remember, this is a ranch house. Right above the house, about 30 feet away, is this kind of blue-green, self-luminous thing. And my mind immediately says, oh, well, that's like a Mylar balloon, right? That's a, a get well balloon or happy birthday balloon. And then I'm looking at this thing, but it's as big as a Volkswagen. And I mean, it was so close I could throw a baseball and hit it. So, I mean, when my mind finally says, I don't have a category for this, I went, what the? And I grabbed one of my camera guys, his name's Scotty, and I grab him, I turn him, and he looks and he says, oh my God. Around the pool, like I said, there were, about 15, 17 people with us. People were saying, oh my God, what is that? Is that a UFO? What the hell is that? And I'm looking at this thing and I am just amazed how close it is. And this thing moves so damn fast, like a zigzag, and stops right above my head. And I don't know how long it was there. Could have been a second, could have been an hour. I don't know. But what happened was right at that moment, I felt that same feeling that I felt in that hallway. I felt the world slip out from underneath me, and it paralyzed me with fear. It terrified me. I had not felt that for 40 plus years. And I was shaking so hard inside. I've told people this before. I don't know if you've ever been so ill or sick that you couldn't stop your insides from shaking. Or if you've, I hate to be gross, but vomited so hard that your insides won't stop shaking.
Yeah, recently, actually.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. So I'm shaking inside. And so this thing zips away about 20 feet away. And people are still saying, oh my God, whatever. And then it just drifts off into the desert. And remember, I tell you, it's very flat. So everybody watches it for over a minute and a half, whatever. And I'm looking at this and I am dying inside. Now, remember, I'm in charge of this crew. So I'm getting angry that I can't, my voice is shaking and things. So I make some stupid comment about, oh, you young whippersnappers can stay up and drink all night, but I got business to do. And I make my way back to the room. And when I do, I'm not proud of this, but I barricaded that door with the bed. And I threw my luggage up on top and I sat in a corner and I cried my damn eyes out. And I could not stop crying all night. And I suffered. And remember, this is not a 50-year-old guy, dealing with something. This is a 7-year-old kid who never dealt with anything, right? And so the next morning, I am so pissed off. Because I'm a producer, right? So I'm a very, very anal retentive guy. And, I got schedules and, day of days and watching other people's money. So I'm pissed off. I'm going to be a hard charger today. I'm going to take a hot shower and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do it, right? And so I do it. I'm ready. I grab a cup of coffee and I try and I can't go outside. I have this inexplicable fear of big sky. I can't tell you. And I can't get near that pool. I'm afraid of water now. I am so gobsmacked. I cannot believe that I can't make myself walk outside. Now, for people who don't understand producing, one of the things you do is you do, scouting for new locations and stuff. And so I'm in the middle of the desert. I got to go to do this. I can't do this by myself. Anyway, through some miracle of God, I get through the shoot by help, getting PAs to work with me, whatever. And 3 days later, I'm, flying back to Pittsburgh. And thanks to some very fine Irish whiskey.
Mm.
But when I get off that plane, my family and my friends, they notice there's something wrong. There's something wrong with Dad. There's something wrong with John. And it got so bad, guys. It got so bad that I couldn't. I would have to park right next to the door of my office, or I would have to park and wait for somebody to come to the office, and then I would run up to them and we would walk in together, and it would do, and I would fight my instinct to run, but it crippled me, my relationships, it poisoned my life. I was having a hard time working. But what happened was this, so I'm so angry at myself that I can't, get my stuff together. I'm not a very smart guy. I guess smarter people would have sought help, right? But I didn't seek any help. I figured, look, I'm nobody special. I'm sure that somebody else has help.
How do you ask for help for something when you don't know what you need help for?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you. But I felt, look, somebody else has got to have gone through something like this. I'm gonna do a little research. I'm gonna read, and they probably figured out how to deal with this sort of thing. Well, that led me to talking to a few people, and then led me to interviewing a few people, and then that led me to sharing finally my story with a couple people. And then that led me to this idea about this film, because I realized that there were literally millions of us in the world who had had something happen. And I thought, you know what? I am certain there are a lot of people who don't have anybody to talk to. And I thought, if I can help them with this film, it's almost, it was a catharsis for me. It was like a total accident I made the film, because I never, ever, ever would have thought of that. But unless that thing happened to me in the desert. But I thought, maybe other people could be helped by this.
Right.
And I know that's a long story. I'm sorry, guys, but
that's okay. But we do have a little clip I'm going to play right now, and here it is.
Okay, sure.
Was I being blamed for something or blessed? Isn't this the strangest thing in the world? That bright, shiny lights in the sky can make you think about who you are as a person. How is that true? There's something coming. And it's going to affect every person on the planet.
Yeah, I believe that too. That's a very powerful statement. Something is coming. There's going to be big changes.
Yes, sir.
I've actually heard from people in the know behind the scenes that 2023 may be the beginning of true disclosure. That's all I can say. But I'm yet to hear the mic drop, so to speak. But in regards to abductions and alien encounters, and that needs to be the driving force behind true transparency, I think. Because if more people come forward out of those hundreds of thousands of people that you mentioned in your trailer, I think we can become a driving force to open up the information to the rest of the people that don't know about it, the ones that are ridiculing people that have gone through this experience, showing them that this is a true phenomenon and not just something fictional or conspiracy theory based.
Well, Tim, I have something very specific to say about that. And I think this disclosure, like everything, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right?
Right. It has to come
Okay.
over time.
Yeah. And so I want to say that this disclosure that the government, this kind of soft or kind of misguiding disclosure the government was supposed to have or is or did, or they had the hearings, it did something that I don't think anybody really, really expected. And let me illustrate it this way, okay? In our world, as you know, there are really kind of like three types of people. And this is what I mean. You got what I call the shoe watchers. These are people who look at the ground. They think everybody else who talks about this is an idiot. They wear a tinfoil hat, and you guys are morons. And what's that have to do with my bank account? And okay. And then you've got the second type of people. And the second type of people are these really kind of like pseudo intellectuals, sit around in tweed jackets, and they're on all the shows, and they talk about, well, mathematically, there could be life in the universe, but it can't get from here to there, and all this other stuff, blah 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 blah. And really, what does it have to do with me and our lives? Okay. And then you've got guys like the three of us who are kind of living in this world going, holy crap, what does this mean? And how does it affect? Oh, man. And does the world really know? Okay, so watch this. So the government comes out and says, okay, well, look, yes, we did detect this stuff. Yes, we really don't know. It might be Russian, maybe. Okay, that didn't fly. Maybe it's Chinese. No, that didn't fly. Okay. But okay, we're going to do research. Okay, but watch what happens. It's always not what is said. It is what is not said. It's what's the old saying, devil's in the details. So watch this. Take those three types of people again. So you got the shoe watchers, right? So the shoe watchers say, they get this news and they go, what the hell are these guys talking about? Wait, the Navy saw this with the Department of Defense? And they do this. They look up. For the first time in their lives, they look up, and they look up with expectation. And they look up with a sense of duty, because now it's an important thing. It's been on the cover of the Times, the DOT. So the first time, that whole dynamic of people who would have laughed or spit in your face, for the first time in their lives, they look up with that expectation, thinking they may see something. Okay, watch this. So now you got the guys with the pipes and the tweed and the pads on their shit, and they're saying, well, what? Wait a second. So the government is they're spending my tax money on, what are they looking for? And they look up for the first time in their lives.
Right.
And then the rest of us are sitting in a cul-de-sac at the end of the road going, well, welcome to the party, fellas.
Right. They were just too afraid to speak their mind and be honest with themselves and be honest with the people. They needed to know that the road was paved for them first, because they're weak.
That's right. So I think, honestly, this disclosure, to your point, Tim, and to your point, Tom, is in the throes of happening. The dynamic is already set. That first domino, I think what's going to happen is we're going to look back in time, 10 years from now or whatever, and say, you know what? The beginning of that disclosure was started by these guys, because what it did was it gave everybody permission, right?
Right.
Look up.
I honestly believe it.
There was a lot that you said earlier, if I may, unless Tim has something he wants to talk about first, because I tend to interrupt him all the time. Then after the show, he calls me up and complains.
I do not, but there is one comment I have to make real quick.
Okay.
We feature a lot of people that have experienced encounters with alien contact on our channel, because it is my mission to get their story out, because they need a platform where they can speak. And like you said in one of your promos, you said it is the ability to know. So in regards to other people, they need to know what's actually happening to people in the world, because it isn't just in the United States. I get a lot of comments where people say, how come it only happens in the United States? It doesn't. It happens worldwide. So people in jungles are reporting the same thing that people in New York City are reporting. or reporting any Pittsburgh, where John was originally from. They're reporting it everywhere, and the similarities between those reports are amazing.
Yes, to your point. Well, to your point, we talked. One of the big movies that came out last year was about Zimbabwe. And about that school. And as you know,
James
Tim,
Fox, right?
Tim, from seeing my film, what I did was a deep dive, and I found out that school sightings was a big thing, and it's global. And so you'll see, Tom, when you do see the film, you'll see a segment about that and about these schools around the world.
Oh yeah, children's sightings.
Yes, sir.
Aliens
Well,
around
there's so many.
children's. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There's so many things that we're talking about tonight that pretty much mirror our incident. And you were talking earlier, and I was like, you were just hitting one after another, and I was like starting to get that, like little hair standing up. So first of all, our incident included, involved a school and a school bus and kids, because they used to draw what they saw, and they would go to the chalkboard and they would, tape it to where the chalk would lay. And I'd come in the next day from school and all these pictures of what these kids drew. So that was kind of, different in its own. And not to get into too much of this, but those kids, those children at the time, they're the ones who later on were bankers and historians who helped vote this into history. You talked about it being humid. The night that we saw what we did, it was a very humid night. I remember I went from laying down at one point. This was not the 69 incident. A lot of people don't realize that there were more than one incident involving our family and the area as a whole. Which is one of the reasons the Goodwill message was manufactured by Sprague Electric to go to the moon, not because they were calling, because they were saying, we already know you're here and that kind of thing. But that's for another lunch. Anyway, there was a staircase next to me. It felt like the floor opened up for one moment, and I was just standing there in the same spot, yet my reality had changed, and I was basically, everything was the same, but I was no longer actually standing on the floor. I remember feeling like laying down and being inverted and wrapped in saran wrap of some kind. There was a flash in a circle ring like a hula hoop. And I was freaking out. And my mother came in. I was scared. She looked in the closet. She looked under the bed. My brother was sitting up on the second floor bunk bed in the corner just like this. And he used to go to bed with animal crackers. And he was just sitting there with his animal crackers. I mean, it was just a weird thing. And for him and I to both experience something so what's the word I'm looking for, kind of like I wouldn't say frightening, I wouldn't say we were just
Out of place,
normal and ominous, and we were responding to something that our bodies had never experienced before. So I don't think it knew how to respond to the situation, and we were so impressionable and young. Because he was 7 like you were, I was 9, and we were just we didn't know what to make of it, right? It was so, and like you said, you want to get help, but what would you say, right? And then what happens is then your own family or loved ones kind of push you aside. They say, what happened to, to so-and-so to say something like that. And yeah, you had the waffles, I had French toast. But just so you know, my mother used to own a restaurant, so she used to make us French toast, right? And she would deep fry it in bacon fat. Bacon fat. That was some good French toast. But yeah, so we had, it was very humid. It was hot that night. It was just a lot of similarities. And again, I look for, or I like to talk with those that have had something similar to what I experienced, because I think we all have something very different. It affects us differently. We react to it differently. And every now and then you meet somebody, and like yourself, that had an experience very similar to mine, really. And so, it's, so I understand completely.
We have a question from the chat room.
Yes, sir.
From Raz. Do you trust your kids meeting a non-human, even if it's 1 in a 100 chance? You can be completely confident your kids are safe?
Wow. Is that a question to me?
Yes.
I don't know. If I had a bowl of jelly beans and I told you that one of them was poison, would you take a handful?
No, jump on that.
Let me say this. Let me say this to Raz. I don't know that we have a choice. I don't know. You know, it's like this. It's like this. You know, everybody's been real hyped about, you know, vaccines and diseases and all kinds of other stuff. Here's a question. You know, are you comfortable with bacteria and diseases and viruses? Well, you should be, because you've been surrounded by them your entire life. And no matter what you do, and no matter how much hand sanitizer you use, and no matter how many gloves or masks, you're going to bump into it. And so I can be as worried as I want to be. I don't know that I have any control. And what I have to do is instead flip that question and say, I've got to, as a parent, I've got to speak openly and honestly and try to prepare them, because there are going to be hard things in life. And these things were the hardest that I ever went through.
Okay, we have another question from the chat room for John. Could you please ask your guest how he feels the specific topic of alien abduction could be brought to light in a serious way in Congress?
Wow. These guys can't hire a Speaker of the House. I don't know if they could agree to bring that to the table.
We haven't seen Obama's birth certificate yet, or even.
No, I haven't, sir. No, I haven't.
Disc, so.
Yeah, they can't get that either.
No.
So once again, I respect the question, and I think it's an important question. But Tim, I side on your side of the equation, where you say, look, it's not the government. It's never going to be the government. You know why it can't be the government? It can't be the government because they're going to say, listen, we knew all this time, and these people were hurt, and these people were killed. And I mean, why don't we know anything about JFK? You know what I mean? Yeah. Anybody who says to you, listen, I'm going to tell you the truth, but I have to bury the truth for 75 years. There's a reason. There's a reason they're burying it for 75 years.
Right.
They don't want to be around when you finally find out the truth.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, all I'm saying is, once again, I totally respect that question, and I totally respect the effort to put it in front of Congress. The only way I can think about that is this: I think the only way that would ever happen is if one or two or several of those individuals were abducted, and it affected them so much that they could not control themselves, like myself, and have to say something or lose their minds.
When my father was a politician and a lawyer and so on, and when our case went before the General Assembly 33-426 at the United Nations on October 2nd, 1992, it went in support was there at the time to kind of add some concrete evidence, if you will, towards the Hudson River Valley sightings, which took place about 45 minutes away, also over a river, Housatonic in the Hudson. And during these talks, the person who ran or headed up the symposium was Mohammed Rabin, who was the president of the Parapsychology Society at the UN. Stanton Friedman was actually there. Linda Morton Howell was there, who we all know, and our attorney, Robert Blutchman. And what was introduced at that symposium was a stack of papers like this from all over the country, a lot from Mexico. The majority of the documents that we saw or we were privy to were from 1974, when 33-426 was first introduced. So this was a revisit, if you will, of this idea to encompass or add or include our entire world, if you will, regarding this topic and subject, to share information with each other. Mm-hmm. You would not believe what was in those documents back in 1974, from pilots being unable to fire upon UFOs, if you will, or Foo Fighters, the terms that they used back in the day. And so the United Nations was well aware back in 1974 how valid this was, or how important it was. Like, there were some of the documents, I remember this, that alien visitors are as much of a threat to us as we are to them. I mean, the verbiage in here was not what you hear about, like all the swamp gas and the nonsense that you hear about in Project Blue Book and that kind of thing. These were actual documents that were circulated and being spoken about openly in front of General Assembly. Now you don't see that now, but in 1992, when they revisited 33-426, they sure did, and our attorney was there. Our case was mentioned there. So for our government now, what, 30, 40 years later, to go, oh no, I have those documents. I mean, I have, and they're authentic documents. And so I don't know why the cover up. I mean, it's not like we're all stupid, right? I think a lot of us are afraid to share our thoughts and feelings. But then again, I ask myself, well, we're not afraid to say other things, right? So why is it this topic still seems to have, not so much like it used to, but to have that stigma to it, and now maybe we're jumping in with the abduction topic. Maybe that's still too much for people, but let's grow up, man. I mean, we are not alone. I mean, to have 9 million species here thriving and there's not anything, no life anywhere in the universe, that's just absurd to think of something like that. So I think, it's almost common sense to realize we're not alone. It's not the other way around anymore.
Well, Tom, you also, I mean, not only are you a really smart guy and have a lot of experience, but I mean, you are an experiencer. So to you, it's like wearing your hat or your glasses. Am I wearing glasses? Of course you're wearing glasses. It's right. It's as plain as the nose on your face. I have to tell you, I think that all of our problems about this particular subject originate with our ego.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Have you ever watched the news and seen people who get robbed or get into a situation and they say, I never thought it could happen to me? The reason is because that would happen to everybody else, but never to me, because my ego will not allow it. Now, when these people, look, every morning, even people in your audience, they woke up this morning, they pressed a button and they got magic coffee. They pressed another button and they did a stock, buy or an option. They got into their car that was air conditioned or heated, and they went to an air conditioned or heated office. Their life is completely predictable and controllable. They like that. We as people want to put a name on something and claim it. If you are taken by a power that is stronger than you, it crushes your ego. It is the most frightening thing in the world to say, I am not in control. And then
But why do we have to be? Why do we have to be in control? I mean, don't we learn? Aren't we? I mean, we go to school and college till we're like almost 30 years old sometimes. Yeah. We want to learn. Why is it when we finally get something that we go, oh my God, I want to know about that. Suddenly that's taboo. And we have to, we can't talk about that.
Tom, you're talking about two different things. And I'll tell you this.
Yeah, all right.
You can be very knowledgeable. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the world.
Yeah, okay.
You can be very knowledgeable, but wisdom is a different thing.
Right.
And there are not a lot of wise guys. And also, because of fear and ego, we fight about everything, right? I used this before, and it's so true. You guys are on social media. I never was on social media until this film came out. You can go on social media right now and say, Happy Wednesday. You'll get 1,000 people who get on there and go, what the hell do you have against Tuesday? And then you'll have another 1,000 who go, you're a Thursday denier. What are you saying? Can't I just be happy about? Okay, because I'll tell you this. We as a people, because of our ego, we want to be right, but we don't care about being correct. And that's wisdom. And so, Tom, I agree with you 100%.
Sociably right. Is that what you mean? Sociably right, even though we might be wrong?
Well, no, we just want to win. We want to win the argument.
At any cost.
Yeah.
Oh, kind of like the Army statement, be all you can be, you, not we.
We.
Us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's the thing. It's not about us. It's about the message.
Yeah. And then, you know what? And that's a funny thing that you bring up. And I don't mean funny like, haha, I mean ironic. a lot of people in this, like I said to you guys before, I didn't know anything about a community. I didn't know anything about, networks of people who talked about this or whatever. I had lived my life in a different world, a different bubble. I got involved with this, and then there were people with real life experiences, and then there were grifters. And there were guys who, it was a cult of personality and all it. And I said, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? But once again, it comes back to this thing I talk about ego, where they got a little bit of information, but they got no wisdom.
Yeah.
They got no wisdom.
A little knowledge is a terrible thing, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's almost like stolen valor. It's like they want to be a part of something that they have yet to experience or they have no knowledge of.
Yeah. Tim, if I ever get like that, you're a big guy. Punch me right in the head. Oh. Right in the head.
Yeah, I haven't done it to Tom yet, so it isn't going to happen.
It's coming, though. I have a way of getting on his nerves sometimes. So, yeah. So, I love the guy. He's great. Yeah. So, you're right, though. It's the topic is still very different than a lot of others. But then again, we're also, as a populace, we're changing in our thoughts. Things are becoming, I think we're becoming more open about a lot of things, but there's also a lot of, the last 10 years have introduced a lot of, there's been a lot of dynamics, right? A lot of things that we're more open to, whether it's UFOs, gay marriage, whatever it is, right? We're starting to become more open about a lot of things, but we're also becoming much more opinionated. So even though something might be out there and accepted sociably, right, on the news, Fox, CNN, whatever, but we're still very opinionated on what those topics are. So we're becoming more, I think, more opinionated and more stubborn with certain things, and we're shutting things down, and we're saying that I don't buy that, so I no longer even want to listen to it, right? So because I already made up my decision, there's so many other things I can focus on. But this is a topic that I think goes beyond just if we're sharing the same bathroom or not, right? This is this is about where we came from. This is about life. This is one of the biggest subjects or topics that we could be involved with, and it's starting to unfold in our lifetime.
Yeah.
We're now, for the first time, and even if it's a little bit, our U.S. government and Navy, what have you, have basically said we're not alone, and not so many words. It's a trickle, that's a drippy faucet. But it is coming out, and we're not spending billions of dollars with NASA to land a rover on Mars and bring back dirt, right? I mean, there's a reason they're constantly getting funded, and we've got SpaceX, we've got all these independent companies now that are
Space Force.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if NASA doesn't get off their ass, for lack of a better word, someone else is going to divulge this, and they're going to look absolutely ridiculous. But they can't divulge things because they're funded by the government. They don't want to lose their funding for next year, right? Those millions of dollars they're getting.
They also don't want to admit that they've been lying for 75 years,
and
which
those
would castigate them publicly.
Right. And those other politicians, they don't want to be voted out of office because they said something they were told not to, right? Because this is governed. Don't think for a minute that they're not shut down on saying these things. There's also private groups, and I think everyone in chat knows this too, that are funded privately under different names that are really controlling the narrative with this and what they're feeding, our senators and presidents and that kind of thing. So there are private groups. So until those particular groups are exposed, or maybe a SpaceX, decides they're going to drop the bomb on this, or they're going to expose this, I don't know what to make of it. They're certainly not going to want to talk about abductions, because that is just, wow, right? That's way too much for someone to accept, on the surface, right? I mean, oh my God, I don't believe that for a minute. Yet you, me, Tim, many of us in chat, we all know what's happening. We've experienced that. Whether we really know the bottom line as to why, genetic, whatever, but we know there's something going on. But for that to be accepted and put out on the news, my God, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, right? I mean, that's
well,
just
it's just too much, because if that in fact happened, if our people finally realized that, what would they really do? There'd be so much insurrection. And yet it makes perfect sense, like you said, and I kept alluding to the wisdom thing. Watch, we humans, okay, we have satellites and probes going throughout our solar system. Absolutely. This is happening. Everybody knows about it. Okay, great. And you know what we do? We go to these other planets and we take samples and we take measurements and we take pictures. And I can guarantee you, if we found a 3-headed elk running on the hills of Venus, we would come down in Black Hawk helicopters. We'd shoot it with a tranquilizer. We take a sample. We tag it to trace its migration, right? Because we do it. But guess what? That's because we're superior beings. See, the problem for us is that our egos can never believe that there be something above us. This is a problem. Doing the same damn thing to us.
Even in God, and God is, certainly has a little bit of an edge on us, right? So we have no problem believing in Jesus Christ, or some guy had powers in his dreadlocks and gave him the power, and he could walk on water. We agree we can accept that as a society, but we can't.
Well, we did for quite a long time. A lot of people are fighting that now because they want to be right.
More advanced life form or something. I mean,
Thomas, I agree with you 100%. This subject is time. It is time.
It is time. Mm-hmm.
It really is. We agree with that.
That's one of the reasons.
Especially seeing the documents that I saw too from '74. I mean, I might show them on the show one day. I mean, it's unbelievable.
By the way, when I was 7, it was 1974. By the way.
And I gotta say this. That's one of the reasons why I started the Experiencers Support Network online as a website, and we're under construction right now. We're working to provide counselors and group meetings and information about experiencing the events that people are experiencing, the difference between the word abduction and the word experiencer and why it was switched and things of that nature, and trying to get deep into the subject to provide a support group for all these people out there, including myself and Tom and yourself, John, to bring this to light. So we're trying to do that right now. But it is under construction still. So if you go to the website, you're not going to see much. We're still working on it. When it does come out, we will announce it on the channel.
Well, I think you're doing God's work on that, Tim. I think you really are. There's so many people who are suffering, who don't even know that they're suffering, who just, as Tom said, I mean, who the hell do you talk to, right? Who do you really? Who's going to have a frame of reference that you can you shoot and hash it out with? It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing.
Right. I do have a clip I need to play.
Yes, sir.
Here we go.
If you want your soul to be strong, you don't care about the world around you or what they may or may not think. The old world is over. It's looking to the new world that counts and finding your place in it. Where will you go from here? Where will we all go from here?
I thought that was an important clip to play because it's important to know where are we going from here. It's so much information.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tom.
No, it looks like the three of us, with regard to that clip, and we are finding our place. I mean, we're here together tonight, right? So
right, that's exactly true. I have one last clip to play, provided by John, and here it is.
But if you're met face to face with something so alien as an intelligence from another planet or dimension, that will change you. It changed me.
Wherever you are in the world is Grant Cameron. I have only one word. If you don't watch this, you're going to miss something, because it's about time someone did this documentary. It is the best documentary I've seen, which has a lot of stories about it and a lot of myth about it, and that's the alien abduction phenomenon. This documentary gets it exactly right.
I've
I'm
got
gonna
to
watch.
say, I've seen the film 3 times,
Oh, thanks, Tim.
and fantastic film, uh, very emotional. Take your time to watch it, maybe even more than once, to actually feel what John is experiencing and going through and sharing with you. It is very important that you do something like that. Yeah.
I thank you, Tim. You know, this is something I'd like to say about the film, is that you know, there are a lot of documentaries out there, right? Hundreds of really good ones. The difference between mine and everybody else's is two things. Number one, most of those documentaries are about what and why. Mine is about who. And it is an immersive experience. Most documentaries that you'll see, you know, they have that kind of classic, you know, newscaster type thing. You see the clip and you hear Walter Cronkite in the background back in 1954 or whatever. From the very first frame, you are inside the experience with me. It's like you're in my pocket or on my shoulder. You're going to go on this trip with me. And the film is called Alien Abduction Answers. It's not that I have any answers. I have no answers. And what I'm on the search for is answers. And what we find is we find landmarks. I realized, like myself, I didn't have anybody to talk to. Nobody really understood what I was going through. And I knew after my research, there were hundreds of thousands, millions of people around the world. And I thought, you know, these people are in isolation. They can't talk to anybody. They don't have any kind of support. And I thought, you know what? Okay, look, I can look like an ass. I'll be the scaramouche. I'll be the fool. I'll ask questions that people won't ask. I'll live through this stuff. And these people can sit in the safety of their living room on their sofa and watch me do all of the mistakes, make all the mistakes that they don't have to make. And it's not my story. It's all of these other people, these very brave people who shared their stories. And here's the thing, you live through them as well. And they're not kooks. These are people with master's degrees and their families and fathers and mothers and designers and worldwide global practices. And they are salt of the earth folks who have just come forward. No one was paid for anything. And what happens is that people like yourself, Tim, they watch that film and they see themselves. They see their aunt. They see their uncle. They see their neighbor down the street. These are not those people that you're going to see on the cover of some tabloid. These are you and me. And this is what this film is about. Watch. You know, that one question that we had about, you know, would you feel comfortable, you know, with your children interacting with these entities? Here's the thing. This alien abduction, okay, aliens in general, this is about us. It's not about the aliens because they exist. Space exists, planets exist, civilizations exist. It is about us, humans. What are we going to do individually? And what are we going to do collectively when we are face to face, when there are no more arguments, like Tom said? There are no more lies. There are no more obfuscation, where there's nothing that can be done and it's right here in front of us. What the hell are you going to do? What are you going to do? What am I going to do? What are we going to do? And I think to Tim's point is this: when all of this stuff hits the fan, the people like Tom and the people like you, Tim, all of these people are going to be, not all of them, some of them will be settled, but a lot of people will be going, what the hell? And they're going to turn to you, Tim, and they're going to turn to you, Tom, and they're going to say, how do I process this? How can I live with this? What can I do? And hopefully this film will be of some help. It was a catharsis to me. It's supposed to take people from ignorance, which breeds fear,
right,
through that, kind of shepherds them through that to some measure of understanding. I'm not saying I have all the answers. That's not what my point is. But some measure of understanding I'm working on a second film which will take people from that position to some sort of integration, because when you have that information, right, you can make decisions, right? You walk into a room and you see this scary thing in the corner of the room. You turn on your light. It's just my jacket over the chair. It's not some intruder. Well, now you can make decisions. You can hang up your jacket. You can leave it there. You can not be afraid anymore. You can sit in the chair. You can make decisions. And then hopefully a third film, which we'll talk about, and I use this word ascension, but I don't mean ascension like woo-woo. This is what I mean. Look, I don't give a damn who you are, where you live, what color you are, what country you are. We all share this. We were all babies. We all crawled. We all bumped our heads. We all were toddlers. We all learned how to walk. We all learned how to run. We all fall, and we all have to pick ourselves up. This is what I'm talking about, ascension. I'm talking about being an adult, understanding the information, that's good. Making decisions in the information, that's good. But now how do we integrate it in our life and say, okay, look, this is the new reality. And what the hell does that mean to me, my family, to my country? And this is really what it is. It's about us.
I totally agree, 100%. It's about us. But then again, it's also about the message.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tom?
Yeah, I was to your point, and actually Xavier, I think, popped on here for a minute. I think this topic, when you look at it more than just on the surface, it's appealing to the more educated, the more open-minded, and the brave. It's easy to sit back and let everybody tell you what to do, and the sheeple, type of thing. But I think it's those who go against the grain. I mean, no leader has ever made it because he followed someone.
Right.
So
Xavier Gamer said, I have a Juris Doctorate and was abducted on my third year of law school. This thing is real. I swear it.
Right.
God bless you.
Thanks for coming forward, Xavier.
Yes, sir.
So does anyone in chat have any questions before we, I guess we're getting to that time, right? We've already got about another 5 minutes or so.
We can go as long as you want to go, but
okay.
I do have a couple things I want to show. John is going to be featured in UFO Expo on during the March 10th, 11th, and 12th festival in Roswell. So what we're going to do is show you some stuff about Roswell first. Tom Reed appeared in the Roswell Daily Record recently, and here is the article.
Good looking devil.
Yeah, he's hiding his eyes. He doesn't want you to
Oh,
know.
yeah, they're probably bloodshot, drinking all day. I have issues, like everybody else. I have my good days and bad days. I'm not feeling any younger.
2023 will be the first year that Roswell's had 2 UFO festivals, and it's going to be an annual event. So check it out. Another article that Tom brought to my attention. I think this is it.
Boston Globe, yeah.
Boston Globe. Now, you can't see it really well. It's on the bottom of the page, so I zoomed in. It's kind of hard to read it, but it was in the Boston Globe about Tom Reed's Berkshire UFO encounter. So that's very impressive. Here's a little clipping of that. The inscription on the monument, which is right here. Okay. The inscription on the monument hails the official induction of our nation's first off-world UFO incident, and by virtue of the GBHS decision, the inscription notes the event now resides alongside Paul Revere and the Boston Tea Party in the annals of Massachusetts history. Reed recounted the aftermath of the 1969 event. So that's really cool. It's in Massachusetts history.
Yeah, that was the Boston Globe. Yeah, that was the thing. It was more, after something like this happens, and you're left to kind of deal with it on your own, and you can't tell the kids in school because that's going to make for a long day, right? So I think that's why I support what Tim's doing too, about having this group, if you will, to bring people together, just like the park I have. I mean, I pay for a park that's 1,000 miles away from me, but it's really for other people to find like-minded, other like-minded people to open up to, who are going to be more open. And I think, and like you said earlier, John, I mean, it's time. This is long overdue, just like a lot of things, But anyway, as long as there's people like Tim out there and chat and the Johns of the world, we're going to be fine,
Got to say this, Tom. Paranormal Underworld, my friend Jax said this is on the front cover of the Boston Globe. That's a huge deal. And he is correct, 100%.
Oh, yeah. That was, yeah. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I was on the cover of the Chicago Tribune, LA Times, Washington Times, New York Post. And I think we have stayed on the more mainstream side of things, rather than getting wrapped up in the community so much, because, it's been the fact that it got inducted into state, took us there. That's where it brought us,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to try to help this community the best that I can. And I think the best way to do that is to stay on the mainstream side of things, the mainstream newspapers, even though they'll take what you say and they'll turn it around. But at the same time, if I can build that alliance with mainstream, I'm going to do more help on that side of the fence than I am just being someone else that, just going down memory lane. I mean, I look at what happened to us, and it was a nightmare. Okay, it was, right, but we all have things that we go through, whether we lose a loved one or what happened, whatever happens to us, something happens and it changes our lives forever. But you can't sit there and just dwell on it. Take what happened and find a way to do something good with it. And if you can't find a way to do something for yourself, then unselfishly do something for someone else.
Do for others. Yes. And we think that your film has done just that. So we want to thank you for sharing all the promos and the film screeners with us. At least
Thanks,
I
guys.
got to see it a few times. It's a very good film. I'm going to go out and buy it. Awesome film. I'm definitely going to do that.
John said he's going to send me a signed copy and everything.
I'll be in Roswell. I'll see you there.
Oh, I want to tell you guys something before you leave. Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, check this out. So I went and found a box of Quisp cereal.
Oh my goodness.
And I've got Lou Alzondo signed it, Travis Walton, Mara, Kathleen Martin. Yeah. So we're gonna have this and probably auction it off at the festival.
Hey, did you ever get your banner?
I'm sorry?
Did you ever get something from May recently?
No, your Christmas present hasn't arrived yet.
It should be there shortly.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh.
It's coming.
Hey, to a good show, Tim. All right?
Yep.
There you go, bud. Yeah.
Cheers, everybody. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you very much for being here tonight, John. We really appreciate your time and your story. I saw how much it was affecting you. It affected me as well. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart that you came here and shared it with us.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Talk soon, John. Thank you again.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime and be on our show.
I really appreciate it.
Never.
No, not at all.
That's it.
I see.
That's
Tom says no, Tim. I'm sorry.
Well, it's my show with him, so
I see.
Yeah,
well, I'll let you guys fight it out then. Okay.
Yeah, we'll fight
He's
it
bigger
out.
than me. He's got a foot on me. Yeah, and 100 pounds probably. Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
thanks,
thank
John.
you both.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
you both,
guys.
gentlemen. Have
All
a
right.
great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.